Hello there! I would like to inform you that what you are about to listen to are the views and comments of the host and the guests only. They do not reflect the views of the community as a whole. Also, side effects of listening to this podcast might include headache, cardiac arrhythmia, nausea, an increase in blood pressure, temporary insanity, permanent insanity, involuntary cursing, shouting, hemorrhoids, spontaneous combustion, abdominal larvae, zombie reanimation, and a permanent loss of faith in mankind. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Eddie, do your banter section.
Is it just me that we're in the middle of we're literally in the middle of June and it's still freaking cold? What the hell is going on?
No.
Don't no me.
Look, yeah. So Florence and Brandon went away just over about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The first thing I did was turn the heating off. So no, we're in summer now. It is not cold. You know, that's just a state of mind. It's plenty warm enough. We do not need heating.
But I tell you something. It's the middle of June. It's cold. How the hell have I got hay fever? It's horrific, my hay fever at the moment. Oh my goodness me. My eyes are streaming. My nose is all snotty. I've just come back from flu and I'm coughing every so often. And I'm like, I don't even know the difference between that or hay fever now. Like,
You're just perpetually not well.
Just someone rub my back or something like that. That's all I want. Just hug me.
But I will not have it if it's cold. It is summer. We're not having the heating on.
Hello everybody, this is the Ed Talks About podcast, a weekly podcast talking about cosplay, Comic-Con, and everything else. I'm your host Eddie, and this week we are talking about AI in photography. Again. Oh, thank you. Joining us on the podcast is Kev of Kev and Pack Photography. Welcome to the podcast. Woo! Do you know what? One of these days I'll have to find an applause soundbite and just add it into the soundboard. That.
Oh no! Yeah.
Why does everyone get so negative about my soundboard?
It's a bit tacky.
It is not tacky. Oh my goodness me! I hate it. Anyway. So you're not right. Just in case you're like going, hang on, haven't you already talked about AI and you had Kevin on it before? Like you're not having deja vu moment. We are talking about it again because something has arisen in the community amongst us photographers, and a lot of people got very angry at it. And I just thought it'd be worth talking about it. So yeah.
It
So
wasn't just the photographers either. It was the artists from the. Who are often at MCM as well, were getting a bit worried by it as well.
Yeah, we can talk briefly about that as well, because I was going to get I wish I'll probably still do it, but it affects artists. Anyway, I forgot to do this in my last podcast, and I'll do it this now. Anyway, because I haven't done podcasting for a month, and now I'm getting back to the swing of things, but you didn't need to know that. Anyway, Kev,
Yes.
How's the last 7 days for you? How are you?
Fine. I'm on my own with 5 cats, which is an experience. Where usually there's a few more of us in the house to keep them occupied. So so most of my life at the moment is taken up with trying to keep the cats occupied and happy. But I've had a couple of shoots on in the last 7 days. So So lots of pictures to be editing at the moment, both cosplay and non-cosplay.
So I generally, when you said you got photos to edit, I really did get PTSD going, oh God, I've got such a bad luck now.
Yeah, well, so have I now. But so I've actually shot already more this year than I did last year.
Oh, that's good.
And it's only beginning of June, so I do need to sit down and not do any more shoots for at least a month, just to try and catch up on what I need to edit.
Yeah, no, that's happened to me. I think I did have a model just message me just the other day. She goes, "Are you free this day?" I'm going, possibly, but I also don't want to take more photos.
Yeah.
Those who are like still, I don't know if I mentioned it in full, but basically I did a shoot in, I think, end of March at a Murder Mile in London, and I'm still editing those files. I just haven't had the time to sit down and properly do it. Today I went into Pret and actually properly sat down and edited a good bunch of photos. I'm hoping.
I've noticed this before, though. Do you not edit at home ever? You always seem to go to Pret to do your editing.
Right. Okay. New strategy of Eddie. I don't know how long this little thing will last, but basically, mainly it's because I got a prep subscription.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah.
so I can just go in and just get a drink, and then I can sit down. But secondly, I think it's because if I'm at home, I've got so many distractions that my non-diagnosed ADHD goes, oh, I could do this, I could do that. Oh, I could do this, I can do that. Oh, I could do this and do that. I could do this, and like it never really wants to sit down and actually make me want to work.
Yeah.
When I'm in prep, I mean, I'm very aware that I'm in very public space, and don't want people to like look over my shoulder. So like it makes me focus and actually get things done. So so yeah, it's not a great strategy, especially with the photos that I'm editing at the moment for my other brand. When it's cosplay stuff, it's fine. I don't mind people like looking over my shoulder. But there was a scenario today, and this is the first time it's happened the amount of times I've been in Pret. By the way, I'm not sponsored by Pret. I just have a subscription.
Other coffee shops are available.
Such as Costa, Starbucks, Nero.
I won't go Starbucks. But anyway, carry on.
yeah, exactly. I sat down and I was editing, and this kid just came over and sat to the table next to me. And I thought the kid was like looking over, thinking, oh, he has a computer and what he's working on. And I thought, you got to look at this. I just like minimize things every so often. And I thought the kid then kind of like wandered off again. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Then all of a sudden his father came with the same child and sat down next to him. I'm going, oh, shite. Oh, shit. I can't be editing photos. But luckily a space opened up, which I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go into that booth. I'll be a lot more safer, and then at least I can then plug my laptop in and charge it up a little bit as well. So
you wanted to look even more dodgy when you're in there on your
100%. Oh yeah, definitely. This is how I want to be remembered and seen in my hometown that I'm in at the moment. So yeah. Oh god, honestly, it's but no, but as I said, just to reiterate, it's just my way of actually concentrating and doing what I want, because I live in a small flat at the moment. I just feel like my bed is literally, centimeters away from me. I can just nap, and I have done that.
Yeah, I must admit, is there a challenge not to think, oh, just lay down for 5 minutes.
Just lay down there. And I'm really impressed when people can sit and actually work from home, even if they've got, no matter how big their spaces are, like either a small flat, big flat, or like a home, a house type of thing. And I'm like, I can't do that for some reason. I'll just be easily distracted, and I can just, that's why I just feel like, and everything's quite mobile for me. So I've got a mobile laptop, I've got wireless keyboards and mouse. I've got now a macro pad that I use, which I feel like it does speed up the way I edit photo. I'm talking about like by minutes, not by hours per photo. I'm talking about.
But minutes per photo adds up.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah. And then anyway, what we're talking about? Yeah. So why are we talking about Pret? I've forgotten.
Who knows?
But yeah, I says no, but it's, yeah. Oh no, I'm talking about Murder Mile. That's it. So I've got those.
Were we talking about Murder Mile? I have no idea.
The studio Murder Mile. Yeah, I was. Yeah, because I'm still editing those files from the end of March to now, and it's June at the moment. So I'm editing those files. I've still got obviously the April birthday shoot that we organised, plus the shoot with one of your housemates, and then MCM London.
Yeah.
I've luckily.
Are you going to the Anime Con in Birmingham next weekend as well?
No, luckily.
Okay.
Luckily, and this is not. I did plan to want to go.
Yeah.
But my parents have just come back from holiday, and I thought, do you know what, it'd be nice to go and visit them. And it's also Father's Day that weekend, so I thought, let's go up to see them. And then I thought, when is Anime Con? Googled it. Oh, thank fuck. To be fair, I don't know if I would have actually brought my camera up with me. I think I might have gone light and just literally take the camera, 50mm lens, and that's it. Yeah. Not my huge camera bag with the long lens and all that. Might have taken a few photos in there, but I would have really told myself not to take many photos. And
it's getting a bit scary. I'm already starting to plan shoots for VeeamCon in August now.
Have you? I'm also thinking about doing that as well, about putting out my schedule out and things like that. And I had a mutual friend of ours, Harley Chainsaw. She was like, she's going to VeeamCon.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay, might see her at the airport in that case.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. And then we'll just talk about, she's like, how about this and that? I said, don't worry. And then I said we can do some day shoots as well. So yeah, so we can do that. Anyway, yeah. Anyhow, we're not talking about editing photos that way. We're not talking about holodeck that way or these other. We're talking about AI in photography. So, as in the previous edition of the podcast, when I brought up the subject back in November, it literally was fairly new. It was still in its infancy when I noticed it within Adobe Photoshop. But generally, like AI, as in ChatGPT and all that's been around for a lot longer. But Adobe have been using it in their way, in their beta version, and now it's fully available in their Photoshop software. And I think it's starting to like
It's
migrate into
appearing now
Lightroom.
into Lightroom. It is. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
looking at that yesterday for the first time.
yeah.
And to be honest, it was a lot easier to bring it into Photoshop and do the AI stuff in Photoshop still. So, but it is there in Lightroom now. But it was not as developed.
No, absolutely.
So I wouldn't recommend, unless you're just a Lightroom user and you don't use Photoshop at all. I wouldn't recommend using the generative. There is other AI, but I wouldn't recommend the generative AI in Lightroom yet. If you've got Photoshop, I'd still stick with Photoshop, I think.
Yeah. No, that's good. But yeah, and there was even talk of at that time about the use of what material it used to like build its knowledge base about how to create this and how to create that, and we'll just say it straight off the bat. Adobe in their statement says back then and also now, and we'll probably repeat this later in the podcast, that all their generative AI knowledge that they are using are all, is it free content or
it's either copyright free content or it is from the Adobe stock site.
There we go. So
they did, because I think they did mention previously that it's at some stage, because it is a big drain on servers to actually do this AI stuff. With your normal Photoshop subscription, you'll only get a certain number of generative AI goes per month.
Well, yes and no.
And then after that, you could buy tokens, and then the tokens money would be shared out amongst the people who had images in Adobe stock that were being trained on, basically.
That's interesting. The way I heard it was that, yes, you got so many tokens for free, and then you can buy more tokens, but if you go over your limit, it doesn't stop you from using generative AI. It just might be slower.
Ah, right. Okay.
That's how I heard it. So we might have to look into that afterwards.
But to be honest, they haven't actually done it yet, so we don't know exactly 100%.
Oh, I've seen I've seen the limit. I'm sure I've seen the limit count. It's in the Creative Cloud app, not in Photoshop or anything like that. I'm sure I've seen it in there. I
must admit, I hardly ever go into the Creative Cloud app. So, you doing that quite a lot, then? I don't know. Yeah.
It's one of those things where I like mess around and just check different things, and I'm like, oh, there's a number there. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm sure I saw it there, but I definitely saw a number clocking down every so often. So yeah. Anyway,
I know you get a certain number of stock images. I didn't realize it was already on regenerative.
I'm sure I've seen it, but like anything I do, sometimes I look at things very quickly and thinking, oh, it must be that, not actually taking a deeper look to go, okay, oh, that's what it actually is. So yeah. Anyway, so as I said, that's back in like November, and things have like moved along, and I'm sure you've heard the word AI.
And I think at the time, what you were using it for, it was mostly for tidying up backgrounds and things, was it?
And I'm still doing that now. Absolutely, 100%. I still do that.
Now, because obviously as it's got progressively more intelligent, I wondered if you had started using it in other ways.
Not that I'm aware of. Like I said, I still won't use it on a person. That's still my morality line that I won't cross, if that makes sense. And that's what I've done. That's what I'm using it for at the moment. And and what about yourself, Kev? Since November, since we last chatted, have you been using it?
Yeah, well, I definitely use it. It's to me, it's just another tool. Like, we were using the content aware stuff previously, which was, which isn't too dissimilar to what the AI is doing for what I'm using it for, which is mainly tidying up backgrounds. But then, say, yesterday, I was editing some beauty photos, and I was having a look at one picture, and I didn't like the hem of a dress. So I used the generative AI to actually change it. And then I didn't like where a hand was sticking out, so I used generative AI to change that as well. So
So you moved the hand.
yeah.
Oh, how sorry. We'll be back to the main podcast in a minute. How did that actually handle the hand? Because I've circled the hand before, and it's come out with some interesting results.
Well, no, what I did was the actual hand was actually just a couple of fingers sticking out.
Oh,
So I just moved it so it was hidden behind the person.
oh, fair enough then. Fair enough then. But yeah, so what I was trying to draw the attention to was that I as much as it's a very good tool and it does a lot of things quite well, there are certain things it still can't do. Like it doesn't understand fingers. Like it doesn't
No, which
understand.
is strange, isn't it? You think it's got so smart in almost every other way now,
Yeah.
but it's quite often very hard to tell if something is AI or real a lot of the time.
I mean,
But
if it's
what you go to check to see if you can spot if it's AI or not is the hands.
yeah, because if it's got a sixth finger or seventh finger, you think, that's probably AI generated and all that. So yeah,
Yeah. But you'd think though that would be something which they would fix fairly soon, really.
I don't know, but it depends on what it's got selected. Like the way I did. Oh, so going back to your previous question, have I advanced
Yeah.
it a little bit? I probably have like circled a hand to create fire.
Yes,
Because what they did was the cosplayer, they had fabric to create to give the illusion of fire or to represent fire. Absolutely fine, not a problem. But I in my head I thought, do you know what? I wonder if this generative AI can do something about it.
Yeah.
Kev,
You see,
whilst I
I quite like fire, but when I use fire, I use Boris Optics.
oh yes, I remember you talking about that.
And so I get my fire added into my photos through that software rather than through Adobe.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh yeah, because you're definitely talking about. I was going to say every time I was using generative AI within Adobe to say put fire around the hand, I think it took me about 3-4 attempts to get to a version I liked. I had to redraw the selection boundary lines and all that. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is that as much as it's advanced so much, it still can't do certain things or has still a long way to go for it to be considered perfect.
Yeah, but even that, like I say, you're using AI to just to speed up a process. Because, like I said, I was using Flames, but what I was doing was I was editing 2 chandeliers, and each chandelier had 8 bulbs in it, and I was replacing all the bulbs with candles and flames.
Oh, interesting.
So that was quite time consuming. Whereas you think, possibly I could have just circled the whole area with gone through to AI and said, just to do it, rather than me having to sort of make a candle and then generating a flame and putting it into each part of the chandelier, each of the 2 chandeliers. So and like I said, when you see the photo, it's such a small little thing in the corner, and you're thinking, I probably spent about 2.5 hours on that.
No, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. So yeah. Oh
Yeah.
god, no, I know that pain. So anyway, the reason
we're both not averse to using AI. Is what
that's a really nice point to bring up as well. So as you can hear, both of us are very pro. I wouldn't say pro AI in that sense, but pro using this as a tool, using this generative AI as a tool. We're not suggesting that we should replace all Artist Alley with AI bots and all that. We're not saying that. We're just saying as a tool, this is a really positive thing for us to speed up our process. Anyway, so recently, so the main subject around this, but I think other companies are doing this, but I want to focus on Adobe first before we talk about others. It's basically Adobe, someone posted something online which they said there's an updated terms of use. And do you know what, Kev? You're a better reader than I am, and you could probably explain this a little bit better. But basically...
So some users, and I never got this, and it sounds like most people didn't, had a pop-up appear on their computer with updated terms of use when they were logging into Photoshop. And it said, we've made some changes to the Adobe General Terms of Use regarding the use of software and services, including clarified that we may access your content through both automated and manual methods, such as for content review, modified our right to delete content for inactive accounts, updated the period to resolve disputes informally from 60 to 30 days. And then it finishes off by closing this window, you'll be unable to continue using Adobe apps and services, By clicking accept and continue, you agree that you have read and accepted the terms of use, and there's a link to the terms of use. So basically, they couldn't actually get into their Photoshop unless they accepted these new terms and conditions, which is, to be fair, what normally happens when companies update their terms and conditions of software.
Oh, absolutely. I get that, but at the same token, if you read that and not really looked into it hard, or
Yeah.
with all this buzz about AI and how it uses it to, they needed a lot of data to generate more and more of this generative AI, or its learning language, learning model, and things like that. I think a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon that this is going to be used for AI, which is which I understand, it's your property, your stuff, but at the same token, it's that they are also going into your personal computer possibly, and taking data off it into their servers. I think that's how some people, if not a lot of people, are either describing it, showing other people about it, and how others went, "Oh my god, is this what they're doing?" And I can understand the outrage, because I
Yeah.
wouldn't want them or any company to be on to using my data or my devices, my laptop, desktop computer, my phone, cell phone, and for you to to use data that I've got that may be personal to me, that for their language model and things like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
Because I think what was when you saw these comments which are appearing on, I'll say X, Twitter, uh, it was mostly around that first phrase, which was, they've clarified that we may access your content through
mm,
both automated and manual methods, such as for content review, because that's a very vague statement. You know,
yeah,
we might have a look at your things. We might do it manually. We might do it
mm,
automated, and we might be doing this for content review. So what else are you doing it for?
mm,
And why do you need to review my content? Is a lot of the comments from America, especially. But we'll talk
yes,
about that in a second, about why Europe makes that more of a necessity than the
mm,
US does. Yeah,
yes, absolutely. And it's really interesting because when I first heard about this, I think was through TikTok, of all apps that the
well, yeah,
US are trying to.
I'd never see it on TikTok because I'm never on TikTok.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Oh no, actually, I'm not. No, that's a lie. I saw on Facebook someone else shared it, and
Yeah,
the outrage for it. And I'm going, oh, this is really interesting. What people are angry about, and I'm not suggesting what they're angry about was wrong or anything like that. But it was just interesting to see that outrage, and I was going, oh yeah, I don't want them to have access to my local machine. But then I thought for a little bit longer, and I thought, wait a minute, why would they have access to your local data on your phone or your desktop or your laptop? They shouldn't have access to. They can't really have access to unless you kind of give it access to it. And the more I thought about it, I thought, hang on, are they talking about their cloud service, their cloud storage service that they loan out to people? And I specifically use that language of loan out to people.
yeah, pretty much.
And like, Kevin, you come on, fill in the blanks, because you know more about you've read about this more than I have.
Yeah, so when I use software, say Lightroom, if I'm using Lightroom, I'm using Lightroom Classic. Everything I do is on my local machine, and I don't upload to their website. And it's pretty much the same thing when I'm working on Photoshop. The I'm doing everything local. I don't use when you have an Adobe subscription, you get part of it. You get their online storage, and depending on your subscription, depends on how much storage you get. And that's handy for a lot of people if they're, say, working on multiple machines, so they can start working on the desktop, then they can go to the cafe to edit in Pret or whatever, and and pick up where they were, on their desktop, on their laptop, and then once they finish their, I don't know, whatever fancy coffee they're in, they like. What do you have?
I have a chai latte with coconut milk. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
chai latte. Okay, once you've had or whatever, he's had that and he's gone home. Then he switches on his desktop again, and it picks up where you are because it's all synced in the cloud. I don't do any of that, and a lot of people don't do any of that. So yeah, but also, like I said, I think Adobe really did shoot themselves in the foot because they made it just so vague. and they just gave a link to the actual terms and conditions, so people go and read the terms and conditions. But the terms and conditions, there's pages and pages of stuff, and and if you're just reading through it, do you understand all the legalese and what it actually means? How many of us have read the T's and C's for using Facebook or I'm going to say Twitter now because I can't be asked saying X, or Instagram or TikTok?
Yeah, absolutely. Hang on. There's a story I think I saw on TikTok this is where I'm getting all my entertainment now from TikTok, and I think I did read or see something that said someone put in something to the terms and conditions that if you read this part, you will get a very fancy bottle of wine. One person claimed it, so that shows how often someone will read the T's and C's in anything, because it is like an absolute bullshit full of like stuff that no one's going to sit there and read it. I mean, again, talking about AI, you could put it for a ChatGPT and ask it to summarize it. You could do that. I don't know how well it will actually comprehend it and spew out a very summarized version. I don't know. It's just I expected that even the summarized version was too long.
Now you're saying that you trust what ChatGPT tells you.
I'm not saying I trust it. I'm just saying I would use it. You could use it for that.
Of course, a lot of Google searches are now being used by chatbots, aren't they? And coming up with all sorts of answers, like the best way to make pizza is to include glue. It based a lot of it's apparently basing a lot of its results on what it's picked up from The Onion, and it doesn't understand sarcasm. So it thinks they're genuine, and because they've been upvoted or had lots and lots of positive comments about them, it thinks they're true because it can't tell.
Oh yeah, it's termed as hallucination. The amount that ChatGPT has hallucinated for all of this is absolutely amazing. And there are some riddles it can understand because obviously they look at the riddle, they already get the answer and do that. There's one I picked up through because I work at an international school and I got to present parts of it about ChatGPT, and I had to find an actual real version because I need to take a screenshot of it of a problem it could not understand. And I think what was the one that I was using beforehand? It was something like if you dry 3 towels on a line and it took 3 hours, how long would it take 9 towels? Now we all know it's still 3 hours but ChatGPT will work that as maybe it'll take 9 hours or something like that. But obviously it now knows that that's no longer the case. Yeah. So and I had to find an example. But there are loads of examples when I was researching it about it.
Anyway, so if we move away from the AI training aspect just for a minute,
yes,
what a lot of people in America were kicking off about was the fact that what gives Adobe the right to have a look at my content and decide what is okay and what needs deleting. In fact, have you heard of Tony Northrup, a YouTuber?
No, I haven't actually.
There's lots of camera reviews. He's one of the big camera review YouTubers out there. And he commented on it saying, who made it Adobe's job to monitor how people use their apps? Shouldn't that be left to law enforcement? Edward Snowden showed the world that having the ability to spy on people, even for the right reasons, can end with abuse. But if you look at the EU, it is Adobe's responsibility to make sure nobody's uploading, say, child pornography.
Oh yeah,
they're liable for what's on their servers. So so it might be that in the US, but Congress hasn't had any of that because I think he went on to. I think people were saying that it's down to Congress to, if they were worried about what's on servers, they should be making it a law. Yes, that's already happened in Europe, and Adobe isn't just in the US. It's around, it's in territories all around the world. So, the fact that they have to, see what you've uploaded to their servers and then possibly delete it isn't actually that surprising. I think you'll find that most companies where you upload images have that right as well. I've been banned for images on Facebook, because automatic algorithms have decided something's wrong with it. When a real person would say, "No, that's just a load of rubbish." But these things happen. It does get things wrong occasionally, but I do understand why it's there.
Oh yeah, it's interesting because even before this terms of use was published. When was this published? Has it got a date on it?
Sure. Let's have a look.
Doesn't look like it has. Well, let's say
It looks like it was early June. It was
yeah. Let's say
early June.
this Twitter one that's reposted. It's 5th of June, so
It is, yeah.
relatively to this podcast, quite recent.
Yeah.
But even before that, and me using generative AI, like me using it on the cosplay photos is absolutely fine. It had no issues. When I'm putting it through the other branding I have, which has got very fetish latex stuff, even though I'm not creating, shall we say, overtly nude or explicit stuff, I think it understands enough that what I'm trying to do might creep into that area. And I'm not doing that. I'm just circling around the model, say, I don't like this object there, get rid of it. But because I think it sees the context of everything else, it's going, oh, sorry, we can't do that for you, sir. This could be potentially explicit stuff. I'm going, what I'm asking you to do is just remove the radiator. That's all I'm asking to do. But I can understand why it gets it gets into that little loop of saying, no, we can't do that for you, Mr. Chung. I'm like, no. But I can understand. And also, and I hate to admit this, but do I hate it? Sod it. So on my other branding, I put a little story, a little description of how I did the photo shoot. Now, my grammar in English is, even though I was born and bred in this country, it's not that great. It's not the best. So I use Gemini, Google's version of ChatGPT, to help me write up these articles. And every so often, I would just put the word latex model, and it just has a fit. It goes, no, you look. It really, honestly, even just putting that word in.
You pervert. You
pervert. You pervert. It's a photo shoot journey. What? I'm not describing very explicit stuff. It's just like how I took the photo. So I've had to be very inventive about how to rewrite that so that I can get to a version that I can go, oh, this is something I would like to write myself, or go, okay, cool. Copy, paste it, and then reword some of the keywords. So rather using latex, I use shiny.
Yeah.
So I just, that. I can't sometimes put models' names. I mean, I will give you a model's name that I've worked with. Hang on, I'm just getting to it. And honestly, I can understand why Google's gone, no, we can't use that either. Where is it? Oh, goodness me. Is it this folder? Yes, it's called. They are called Princess Latex Rubber Doll. Now, I can't imagine why Google has such an issue with that name. So to get around that, I had to use their initials and then just do find and replace to get around that. Because like I said,
okay.
I know I'm not doing it in nefarious ways. I know that for a fact, okay? But I can also understand why Google has to put some safeguards to make sure what goes through their servers. And, I'm assuming all their services, it will retain some data for a short amount of time. Actually, again, I haven't checked their terms and conditions. They may hold it forever. I don't know. That, like you said...
I'm going to talk about data privacy settings in a minute.
Oh, okay, then. But, they've got to make sure what they output, because, as you said, they could be liable for what is being outputted and things like that. So, I understand from that point of view where that's coming from. And I think moving on from a little bit, unless you want to go back to the data privacy, or...
Well, we'll talk about this quickly because, so that's the reasons why a lot of Americans were kicking off, because they didn't like, big IT company looking at what they were doing and their freedoms and all this stuff. Which, if they're using Instagram or TikTok or any of these others, they probably already agreed to most of this anyway. But remember, with Facebook, it's important to go into your privacy settings to make sure how they're set. You really need to do the same thing with Adobe's account as well. Yeah. So, because you can go in there and you can just say, share information on how I use Adobe desktop apps, allow my content to be analyzed by Adobe for product improvements and development purposes. All of these are going to be on by default, probably. And if you don't want to share this information with Adobe, go in and switch it off. That's part of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's really disturbing, how much we are monitored by these tech companies. Now, I can only speak up for Google because I don't own an Apple phone, but I'm sure this practice is similar in their world compared to Google's. If you go to the My Activity and look at the timeline of your activity within a Google product. So it could just be on their website, could also be your Android phone if you own an Android phone, but it will detail everything you do and for how long you probably do it for. Not just the Google stuff, but the apps you use, have you gone from this site to that site, this and that and the other. That activity monitor is frightening how much data it can pick up in one day, even 1 hour. I am shocked. And if it's on that level for Google, these individual apps like TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, I can only imagine what data they're picking up as well for like how long do you spend on a particular article, on a post. It's amazing how our data is being monetized. And I understand why people are so frightened by it, but I think we're already sucked. We're already in this. We're entrenched in this so much. We can't get out of it. I think I keep seeing these videos about I want to have a like a really de-Googlified phone and all that thing. I think it's far too late now to get out of that ecosystem of the use of Google or Apple or things like that. Yes, you can minimize it, but you can't get out of it. Sorry,
yeah. It's a case of what you're willing to give up for the convenience of using it, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I was reading one of these comments on Twitter from one of these disgruntled people, shall we say? Some of the rights that Adobe is asserting on your work, they can review it for content moderation. They can manually review it. They can publish or give it away. They can sell it to third parties. They can and will use it to train their AI. No. So the response from one of the Adobe's team on that was, any modern cloud service has legal screening requirements like child exploitation imagery. The TOS ability to review is legally required for those who host content. The license required solely for the purpose of operating is required to do basic things for customers, like making thumbnails, opening a file on the web app, index for search, etc. And when we support third-party integrations for workflow, that requires a sub-license. We have always used ML, machine learning, to improve masking, selection, and other basic tools. So basically, you've been using AI in one form or another for years.
Yeah.
But explicitly, we do not train Firefly generative AI on customer content. It is trained on a licensed data set with a customer compensation program that has well been documented. So that's their response to people saying, oh my God, they're stealing my images and they're editing my content and they're giving it away to other people. No, that's not what it says.
No, which is good. But I'll tell you something.
I think they were just overly vague when they did the pop-up. I think that's what's caused a lot of issues.
Which doesn't help, no. But it would be very interesting, which I forgot to bring up in the first podcast about this, that obviously if you upload your work up online, inevitably, no one's going to source it from your actual place and share it. They'll take that image and paste it into their own feed maybe for good reasons, maybe for negative reasons. You never know. Maybe saying, "Oh my God, look at this photo! This is so great!" Blah, 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 blah. But because it's going to be in multiple places, it'd be really interesting that if Adobe finds a photo or an image and goes, "Oh, this was found in a license-free, copyrighted, allowed space," and use that for their model. Could the artist then go, wait a minute, I didn't ask that to be uploaded, what's going on? But they didn't have to necessarily come from your source. It could have gone from a different source. And
that does rely on whoever's providing content-free material to be policing it. And
absolutely.
There's all just because Adobe say they're only using content-free data set and their own stock gallery does not mean that there's not stuff which has been uploaded there which should not be there. I think that's inevitable. But at least they say they're trying something. Whereas you get some of the bigger AI software at the moment which aren't even pretending to do that. They're just scraping the web. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely, yeah. And you cannot, I don't want to put a halo around Adobe because I'm not fully understanding of the whole situation myself. This is why I'm doing this podcast.
Yeah,
but it does sound like Adobe is one of the, at least bright lights about all this. At least they're saying they're doing this and doing that, and they're not using any copyright material that belongs to an artist and things like that. I want to shift this conversation very quickly to other companies, because recently Meta, the umbrella company of Facebook, Instagram, Threads, I'm trying to think if there's any others, WhatsApp as well.
Yeah.
They have now brought up their little terms and conditions also by saying, by the way, we've opted you into the AI program which we're going to use to train our AI model. Are you okay with this? And there is a link to actually opt out of it. And I've said it in that way very purposely. So, Kevin, in your eyes, in your understanding of all of this, and with also your judgment, should it be you should opt into it rather than opt out of it, or you think that the way that Meta are doing it is fine?
No, I think you should always be given the option to opt in, but then we know that nobody would, and that's why they've done it the other way around. So I can understand why they've done it, because they could, not that they, it would be should.
Yeah.
It's and that's the concern, isn't it? Every time Facebook do an update of terms and conditions, they tend to switch a load of things back on, which you probably switched off. And you have to go back in again and switch them all back off again. So, and unfortunately, that I keep calling it Facebook rather than Meta, but I know there's the other apps as well. They're all under the same umbrella now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not very good with things like that, shall we say?
No, absolutely.
They've done this time and time again, haven't they? It's like you could back in the olden days, probably about 2-3 years ago. It used to be that you could be automatically opted in to receiving junk spam and stuff like that. But then there was I think it was EU laws actually brought in that you had to opt in. You couldn't automatically be put in and then have to opt out. You had to choose to opt in to receive junk messages, or offers or whatever. But so that stopped because rules were put in place to stop companies doing that. So you shouldn't find yourself automatically added on to receiving updates from us and our partners or whatever it says. Nowadays you have to actually agree to do that. You can't automatically be added into it. And this is the same thing, because AI wasn't around. They can at the moment say we're going to automatically add you into our AI unless you'd like to be taken out.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to be a very small item in one small part of the T's and C's. And how often do you actually go back and read them unless somebody points it out to you?
100%. Yeah. No, it'd be quite interesting. I mean, I think if I ask this question, I think, because I might bring this question into the podcast section from my point of view, but basically, okay, very quickly, and with your knowledge with your opinion, and again, I'm not saying you're speaking on behalf of everyone, but yeah. But I just want to say, should we be opting out of these things? Should we, actually allow AI to learn from what we write, what we upload photos from, and things like that? Now, I can understand before I'll give Kev time to think about it. I can understand about from photos maybe that you don't want to, because you might have, if you may be a parent and you have kids, you don't want your kid's face to be appearing in someone else's generated AI images and things like that. You don't know. Again, maybe your own image, you don't want to be portrayed in a way that you think, hang on, what's going on? That's my face there. Things like that. I can understand that. But if we don't train these AIs, it won't get better. It won't advance further, in my opinion, type of thing. I'm not suggesting we should all opt in or we should all opt out. It's just something to think about. So, Kev, me giving you that caveat, do you want to add to it?
Well, let's go back to the Adobe thing again then, because a lot of people were concerned with Adobe harvesting their content, because a lot of people, more so on the artist side perhaps, but also on the photography side, have NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. So they're working on something and they can't let anybody know what it is or anything until they've reached a certain point of the contract and handed it over, or reached a deadline day or whatever it is. So a lot of people were worried that by Adobe taking their content and doing something with it, it was basically breaking their NDAs.
Which is that's a legitimate thing.
It is a legitimate thing. Yeah, yeah. So obviously, if you are working on something and you don't want it to be shared with anybody because you're contractually obliged not to mention it to anybody, you probably don't want to share it. Have it so that an AI is scraping it and using it for other purposes. Um, Personally, from what I'm doing, it's probably not that big a deal.
Mm.
But it's different. I'm taking pictures of people and editing them and try and make them the best image that I can make.
Mm.
Um, if I was an artist doing something, completely off the top of my head and making or designing, patterns for, say, wallpaper, because I do know somebody who works in the wallpaper industry.
Mm.
Would I want that then to be, stolen and shared with AI? So somebody just asks AI, design some wallpaper, and then it comes up looking extremely like the design that they'd come up with. There's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to share your creative work with an AI, and it does worry me about how um, some of these AIs are being trained. Some of them are being trained just on the internet in general. I think we were speaking earlier on before the podcast on the fact that we're talking about AI hallucinations, weren't we?
Mm.
And that's with understanding of text, but also, you know, I'd like to use the AI features because it speeds up my process of editing pictures, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I want to create AI images, because I don't.
Mm.
Um,
And
so
I remember we
yeah,
made a clear distinction between the difference between AI art and using generative AI to assist with editing photos.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. And as I was saying before, when you look at things like some of the other things I was talking about before, where AI has been around for many years, doing tasks in the background. It's just now that it's being brought to the front and doing a lot more, shall we say, creative stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the amount
So
of stuff that the word AI has now been involved. As a tech nerd that I am, I watched the recent Google I/O event. I think it was last month in May, and
yeah.
they genuinely, I don't know if they actually really did this, but they counted the number of times they used the phrase AI in their presentation. They used it 120 times, around about that number. And it's
Yeah.
astonishing how much that's now been, what's the word, integrated more into our life. I said it then, it's been integrated. It's really like up the pace and things like that. Um, it's honestly,
Mm.
it's astonishing the pace that AI is integrated. And again, I'm probably going to ask this question. Then I'm going to ask it again. Should we be worried about the pace that it's going? Should we not create more stringent laws about the use of AI? Because at the moment, it feels like it's very on a morality type of basis rather than we need to put this into law.
Well, shall we talk about Grok?
Okay, who's Grok?
That's the Twitter AI.
Oh God! Oh, that's a horrible name. But yes, carry on.
Yeah. So forget about images for a minute. I think that. So this is obviously something which has now appeared on Twitter X, which used to have a created news feed, picking up news stories from Reuters and from genuine news sources, proper news sources, not things like Fox or, or whatever. And then here's your main news stories of the day.
Yeah.
Whereas it's been replaced now with Grok, basically their version of AI, and it doesn't understand jokes and sarcasm, and it reports these things as trending news stories. So when there was the recent uh, solar eclipse in America, over the north of America, recently, the top news story ended up being the sun's going out and scientists are baffled. Uh, Right. Which is funny, that's not gonna, it's got loads of quotes, because obviously people started joking about, "Oh my god, it's dark outside. What's going on? And
Mm.
where's the sun?" and all the rest of it. But it made a proper, news story with references back to where it picked up all this information from, but basically saying the sun's dead. You know. Well,
Yeah.
so that's just a funny story.
Mm.
Another one not so funny was that it said about now where was it? Was it an Israeli rocket attack on Tehran or something?
Oh dear.
Which was a lot more serious, and it picked that up from a some sort of joke site. I don't think it was The Onion this time; it was something else. But then basically, and then it started saying, picking up the fact that that we're about to start entering Third World War.
Oh
Um,
Jesus.
Oh God, yeah. This was quite serious. This one was, and it said it's the closest we've come so far with AI. About possibly starting a next war.
Skynet's real. Skynet's real. Oh my God! Run
Oh
away
yeah,
now.
but it was pretty much that. It was basically getting pictures from places, making up news stories, and saying about how the fact that we could be entering the first stages of a thermonuclear war. So
God. Oh no.
and that was the trending news story on Twitter. X, sorry.
Oh no.
Was,
You can still call it Twitter. I'd rather call it Twitter. Honest.
So yes, so that's where because this was where we're talking about AI hallucinations, because it's
Yeah.
reading stuff which was a joke, seeing that it's trending, and a lot of people are making comments about it and responding to it, presuming that it's true, and then reporting it as a important story of a moment of actual facts of what's happening in the world. So yeah, well away from images and editing pictures and creating art, but AI is some scary shit.
Yeah. And to be fair to AI, us humans are not great at sometimes picking up fake stories and making it real. So it's not like, oh my God, us humans are brilliant and AI is like that. It's like, no, we make mistakes as well and things like that. It's just that we obviously we have. I like to think we've got souls and things like that, and that we can. I don't know why I use the word souls, but we've got the ability to know what sarcasm is and things like that. Yeah, it just needs to be. I don't know. I just feel like for me, working in international school at the moment, like I keep telling the students, it's plagiarism and all that and all that. If someone actually challenged us and said, by the way, there's nothing in the bylaw that kind of says, I don't think it's written down anywhere that this is plagiarism. They've got every right to use it in a sense. And I do find it scary. Like I said before, or I've said it in passing, that I find this technology very interesting, and I feel like it's going to be something that we should incorporate in life rather than trying to ban it. And I feel like we just need to have a better understanding of how to use it and how to train it and things like that. And I understand, going back around the circle, to train it, we need to give it some information and things like that. And people shouldn't this is why people don't want their work to be used in that sense. And that's why I asked the question earlier: should you say yes in the end or not, or should we prevent it? Because I think the more information we provide it, the more we'll understand what's fake, what's not, what's good, what it can do, what it can generate, and things like that.
I don't know. I think the more smart these things get, the harder it is to tell what is real and what's fake.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not suggesting that this is this will make things easier for us to know what's real, and it won't be. You're right, but that's kind of where we want. This is kind of the intention that the these language models wants to move towards, is that the line between AI and human gets more and more blurred, and it gets so confused. Like every time I look at some photos now, I'm going, I can just about tell that's AI. And then, but like, there's obvious ones that go, oh, that's AI, easy AI. There are times I do have to look at it really closely, spend about a minute looking at it, and going, AI. But because I'm spending a minute now checking it, it's the one thing I also wasn't bring up very quickly is like, again, about this AI-ness. It's about how recently Facebook have been putting in, and I think they're putting in Instagram as well. There's a little button that says, if this has been used with AI, please mark it. Now, I don't know what they mean by the level of AI. I think that if they're talking about AI art, easy. But with my photos where I have used AI, generative AI, to like remove things out of the photo, do I need to mark it with that? Because I still write on my website this photo's been edited with generative AI, but I don't put it onto the social media.
Yeah, well, they're now talking. If I was reading what Adobe was saying, in one of those responses earlier on, that masking and selections are all using machine learning in Adobe already. So even if you're doing masking and selections, then in theory you're using AI.
So we should just mark every photo.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? That's
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean.
true.
Because they're saying, AI is the new, umbrella that everything's coming under.
Yeah.
But masking and selections and other basic tools were based on machine learning.
Mm.
So machine learning which is what we're now calling AI, it isn't new. You've been using it for a long time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm sure there is a cut-off point people will say in their head, oh, but if you've been using that for years and that's already part of it before this AI boom came along, that's not really AI.
Mm,
But define AI. It's
mm,
artificial intelligence. It's using an artificial intelligence to help you do your thing. You didn't do that; it did it. So,
yeah.
um,
And like I said, to me, it's the fact that it's a learning program. It learns to get better. So so if basic tools are using learning to get better as well, then what's the difference? They're still AI.
it's interesting. Yeah, yeah. Because I think, what was it? I did notice it when I was like uploading something. I thought, oh, didn't think of it. I think I saw someone's post where it marked one of the photos to be AI made, but I thought that was a human intervention, not that Facebook would mark it. So it's
No,
quite.
I've not. I must admit, I've not seen this yet.
I've definitely
Uh,
seen it in Instagram, but I'm sure I might
yeah,
have seen it
well,
in
I
Facebook.
you know me, I hardly
Oh
ever use
yes.
Instagram. I never use TikTok, and I'm only on Facebook really.
Let's see if I can try to
So
post something now. Give me a second. Hang on. Let's post that. All right. Next. Yeah, so label is made with AI. We require you to label certain realistic content that's made with AI. And there is a learn more, so maybe that will tell you what they expect, what
yeah,
they mean by made with AI. Now, very briefly, because we're running out of time, and we're probably the wrong person to ask this question, but I want to get your view anyway. So
okay.
recently, Megacon released something about saying, "Oh,
Oh yeah,
we allow." Yeah, you know where I'm going now.
yeah.
They will allow AI art. Now, to defend them a little bit, they have actually pushed another, I think, statement to say what we mean by is AI art is AI assisted art. So if you use part of your art for your drawings, that's absolutely fine. We're not talking about, I would have said 80, 90% to 100% AI created, or even 100. They don't want that being sold at their events type of thing. But
Yeah.
the outrage, whew, that was amazing, and I think I will get. I know a few people I've spoken to about this. I'd like to bring them and get their view about this and how one it affects them today, which probably at the moment isn't as much, but in 5 years' time, how that will change. Because
Yeah.
I think it's going to be again. I'm, as I said, I'm pro at the moment of using all these tools and all that, but I can imagine, like you were saying earlier, the line between AI, human photography, and the way it talks and how it writes things and things like that line's getting blurred. Right
Mm.
now, if you use AI art, everyone's going to go, "Oh, that's AI art." In 5 years' time, I bet you not. It's going to be very hard to like just distinguish between that of AI and to human. So, I mean,
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I said you look at let's go back to MCM because more
mm,
people are familiar with that. But it's always had a problem with knockoff goods being sold,
mm-hmm.
and then from time to time you get the people come in going around with stalls grabbing all the stock, don't you? The custom, what they call it? I can't remember what they're called now. Trading standards people.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so they do that from time to time because we know that stores aren't allowed to sell knockoff goods, but they do. And then from time to time, the trading standards come in and just raid the place, basically.
Mm.
Usually because they've been asked to come in by one of the companies themselves. But at the moment, their experts are being able to spot what is a knockoff good and sort that out. With this AI stuff, I don't know how you're going to tell. It's as you said, it's not sometimes now. Some things are obvious, but the better you are at it, and the better the AI gets, the harder it's going to be able to tell.
Oh,
If it's genuine or not.
absolutely, and that's probably why at the moment they're probably trying to like fend off the walls in a sense for why people don't want to provide that content to people to these AI models, because they're worried that line or that line gets so blurred that people won't tell the difference. I do understand that, absolutely do.
No, absolutely. But it's a hard one. It's a really hard one.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to be the event organisers which are having to
Yeah.
police that. If they get one artist saying you need to do something about this store because it's blatantly using something which is being generated by AI.
Mm.
How do you prove that? How do you
Yeah.
ask them? Throw them out or ask them not to come back in?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
Like I said,
hard.
this is honestly, to me, this is absolutely fascinating, and I wish I could talk more. I mean, as I said, we started this podcast talking about the AI, the new terms and conditions, and actually, it's something that isn't. It's not like they're going into your stuff; they're taking it willy nilly and using it for their AI models. In a sense, like you said, it's just checking for their what content is
Making
going
sure
through.
they're compliant with laws of the land, basically.
Exactly, but also the notion that they can look at your stuff, because like I said earlier in the podcast, I said you're loaning out data space into the cloud. Like when you purchase, like I got Google Drive, people got Apple, what do they call it, iCloud,
iCloud, yeah.
Microsoft OneDrive and things like that. You're only borrowing space and things like that. And yes, there are protections that say that those companies can't go into your data, especially in the EU. America's not as, what's the word, bothered, shall we say.
Freedom.
Woo! But
Yeah.
like I said, it's loaned space. It's not your space. You put money to it to use that space, but it's not like you actually own it. It's not like you can take the hard drive out of the data center and go, oh, can I have that, please? Thank you very much. It's their space. So this, you've got to have in the back of your mind that no matter how stringent the law says they can't get to it, something part of me that says they'll find a way to get to that data one way or another, and things like that. Sorry, there was a roundabout way I was getting to that point, and things like that.
Yeah.
But no, and then we moved on to like talking about the different companies that are using now AI and how far they spread it. I mean, I think we could talk for another hour about this, but I won't bore people with it because
the trouble is, we're now, what is it, 6-7 months since we last spoke about it?
Yeah.
Things will change again in the next 6 or 7 months. It's moving so fast.
Exactly. And I, like I said to you then, I bet we'll be talking about this in 6 months' time. And lo and behold, we are.
Yeah.
And I bet you in 6 months' time to a year, we'll talk about it again, because the next advancement of it is going to be huge. Like, okay, I don't want to keep banging on about this, but what was it? The latest ChatGPT, I think it's ChatGPT 4, either O or 0.
It's O. Yeah.
It is O, okay.
The one with Scarlett Johansson's voice.
Yes, not, but it is, but it is, and it isn't.
Yeah.
The demo for it was extraordinary. Honestly, I was blown away. Regardless of how set up the scenarios were, even if you get a quarter of that right, man, that's going to change people's lives, both in a positive and negative way. Again, talking about the Google I/O, their little demonstration, it's not public yet, but you can open your phone up, and you can scan the room, things like that, and go, oh, where did I leave my house keys? And it goes, oh, it's on your desk. Like, it can do that type of thing. Like, my goodness.
Though we've seen something with things like the human pin and the rabbit. But
yeah, I know.
The technology isn't quite there yet.
It's not quite there yet, but I think those two, what you just mentioned, are not quite, I would say, in the same realm. They're not on the same
Yeah.
technology level, and we'll have to talk. We'll talk about that another time, or at least us in person. But the thing is, like, something did come into my mind that's disappeared. Oh, that's it. Like, Microsoft are now using it. They call it Copilot within their desktop environment, and they've brought out this thing called Recall, and it takes snapshots of things, and you can ask a question of, oh, I remember I saw a red cardigan somewhere. Can you bring it up? And it will search through that screenshot and do that. And it can do that. And it goes, oh, here's the website you saw this. Oh my goodness. Or the article or whatever. Unfortunately, recently, which I just saw the headline for, someone's hacked it now so that they can get that data. So it's unbelievable how things have moved so much that, like Microsoft themselves are saying, oh no, this data will be held locally and all that. Well, someone's already found a way to hack it, and who knows. Anyway, I don't want to leave it on a bad negative note about AI per se from my side, but at least I mean, can you say anything positive about all of this so far?
Well, we've both said, we're both using it, so it does make things as far as photography goes better.
Yeah,
I can do jobs faster, but I can also do them better than I was doing before. So in that way, hey, if it's helping me do what I'm doing, then that's great. But obviously, the risk is that it replaces what you're doing.
Yeah,
and that's not so great.
I feel like that's the same message we left last time, 6 months
I think
ago.
it was.
And I will always say that, but that's fine. That's not a problem. Anyway, Kev, thank you very much. Now, the podcast extra, I've got it. I think I've got it in my head. I want to talk about what is the difference between AI taking your work to use as a way to generate work, and me going to the internet, looking at a picture and go, oh, I like that pose. I like this element. I like this. I want to recreate that. What is the difference between that doing that and me doing that? And we'll talk about that in the podcast extra. So if you want to listen to that, go to the Patreon page. I'll say at the end. But Kev, thank you very much for being on the podcast. If they want to find you, where can they find you?
Well, my website is almost updated now. It's nearly ready to launch again because I've been saying this on most podcasts I've been on. But it's cosplay.co.uk. And I'm the old website is still there at the moment, but the new website is 90% finished now. So it's getting there.
Amazing. If you didn't catch any of that, and there's also, he's got others which I will put into the podcast description. If anyone needs to find me on the podcast, on the social medias, go to foodandcosplay.org/links. That's where you'll find my social media links, such as Threads, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the lot. If you go to foodandcosplay.org generally, you'll find daily cosplay photos and some articles here and there. And we'll actually put Kevin gave me some links about links that it was called PetaPixel.
Following this story, it's PetaPixel following this story we're talking about. Yeah.
So we'll post those into the podcast description just in case anyone wants to follow that. Sorry, just want to put that in whilst I remember. If you go to foodandcosplay.org/podcast, you can hear other podcasts that Kevin's been on. I've been off because I'm here. I'm the host.
You're in all of them.
I know. Well, hopefully I might get a guest host soon. But but other subjects, other people on the podcast talking about various cosplay stuff, relating stuff, and things like that. And if you go to patreon.com/foodandcosplay, you can hear this podcast that I'm going to talk about what is the difference between AI taking stuff and me taking stuff. And, I hope it'll be an interesting chat. But if you can't come to that one, that's not a problem. I just want to say thank you for listening. Kev, thanks for joining us. Joining us? Yeah, me and you. Yeah, us. Yeah. And if that's the case, so I'm going to say goodbye and they're going to say goodbye. So bye, guys!
Bye!
Bye!